Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, it's a little quiet though. Right?
Yeah, it is a little.
Okay, thank you for that. And Ted, I saw a thumbs up as well, so you can hear me as well. Can you test your mic, Councillor Sheneman, so I can ensure I can hear you?
How's that? Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at the hour at 6 o'clock. If I can get a mover and a seconder to open the meeting, please. Moved by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, second by Councillor Peter Kistemaker. Resolved that we do call this regular meeting of council to order on Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. And I'll hand it over to Deputy Mayor Peter Kistemaker for the land acknowledgement.
The Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the land on which we gather here today is the Treaty 9, 1905-1906 territory, the traditional lands of the indigenous peoples. We work towards reconciliation. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples.
Thank you, Councillor Kistemaker. I would like to state at this time, just before we continue on the agenda, we've had this issue before where I'm virtual and I can't quite hear everything that's happening in council chambers. So I am going to hand the duty off to Deputy Mayor Peter Kistemaker to ensure decorum is kept within council's chambers, and that it is a formal meeting and this is a meeting of council only, and that any talking or questions and that sort of thing do have to go through the chair. So I'm not sure if we have guests this evening in our chambers, but okay. Thank you for that. And we'll continue on. For the approval of the agenda, if I can get a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the council does hereby approve the agenda as presented. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 And that is carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest and declaration of conflict of interest. That can happen now, council, or at any time throughout the meeting when such a situation arises. I don't have any paperwork as such right now, so we will continue on. Item 6 is deputation, presentation, tender awards, and open discussion. We do have one tender award, and I'll hand it over to the CAO to speak to this.
We received one proposal from C. Villeneuve Construction Company Limited. The two options are stated in the motion on the agenda, and it's also indicated in my report. And my recommendation to council at this, or my recommendation to council in my report, is that council directs staff to contact Villeneuve, the bidder, to inquire if they're willing to negotiate their bid. Just because the bid is essentially outside of our project fund target. I'll just leave it up to council to direct staff or to decide.
Okay, I'm going to have a open discussion here of council. We've read the CAO's report, and there are some decisions to be made, as it is significantly over the price that we received from Trillium. And I would wonder now, with consensus of council, if we move this item into our closed session and we bring it back after the end, so it'll become the third item within closed. Do I have consensus on council's to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll add it to our closed agenda, and then we can have a fulsome discussion and give the CAO direction. Okay, moving on to the adoption of the minutes. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please, for the December 6th minutes. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Council held on Wednesday, December 6th, 2023, as distributed. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 And that is carried. Moving on, we have nothing under item 8. Under item number 9, correspondent action items. 9.1 is the Arena Canteen reduction of hours and notice of termination of agreement. And Eileen, would you like to speak to this first?
Sure. So we received the request from Josh Pieper. And essentially they would like to terminate their agreement a bit early as indicated in their request. And I believe that they would like to close pretty much near the end of the winter programming, which would be, I've confirmed with the Public Works Department that it is March 28th, which is the last day of the winter programming. And this is coming back to council just as per the procurement policy. It's section 611.3 in there, where council shall approve any and all changes in a contract that affect the price or terms of the original contract. And that's all I have for that.
Okay, I'll get a mover and a seconder for the motion, and then we can have a discussion. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas the Township of Hornepayne entered into a rental agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne and Josh Piever for operation of the Hornepayne Community Arena Canteen, which expires on August 1st, 2024. And whereas Council has received correspondence from Mr. Piever dated December 6, 2023, providing written notice of the early termination of the rental agreement effective upon the end of winter arena programming in March of 2024, as well as requesting a reduction in hours of operation of the Arena Canteen until the agreement is terminated. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the notice of termination from Josh Piever for the rental agreement for operation of the Hornepayne Community Arena Canteen, effective upon the end of winter arena programming in March of 2024, and does hereby agree to reduce the hours of operation by the Arena Canteen until the agreement is terminated, with a bylaw to follow at an upcoming meeting to formalize the amended agreement. And I open up the floor now to any discussion or items that council would like to ensure is in the agreement. Councillor Peter Kistemaker, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Eileen, the proposal, what he put for the rent stays the same, right? Till March, like until the end.
Everything has stayed the same. They're just asking to terminate their contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor
Dryo-Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry to hear that it's not burdened to financially for the business. It's heartbreaking to hear that because after reading the correspondence, obviously, it's wise for me to make the decision, and I'm sorry to see that. I really am. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I have no further comments at this time. Eileen, go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot to mention to council that in their request, it also says that they would like to reduce their hours until they close. So they'll reopen after the Christmas holidays, open for events only, potentially the busier hours of arena programming instead of the 10 to 8 hours Monday to Friday, which is in the original agreement contract.
Yes, and we have that motion sitting on the floor. It's included in there, so I will leave that up to you to negotiate what would be acceptable. Any further comments on that? Councillor Peter Kistemaker, go ahead.
One issue I have with it, through you, Madam Mayor, Eileen, are they talking about this? So the 10 to 10 that'll cease to exist?
Yes, they're trying to.
Okay, so I totally understand the rationale behind it, because they're not making enough money to justify it, and they're having a hard time finding people to work it. But what I have an issue with is during the events, we took this away from minor hockey, whoever's using it, figure skating, curling, whoever it may be during the events, and we're giving them all the cream, and we're saving nothing for the other people that are there all year. That's the one problem I have with it is, so they're only going to come during the high times, and I mean, if that was the case, we would have never done it in the first place. I know being involved in the hockey in the past, that was a huge moneymaker for us, was the canteen. But we canceled that in lieu of getting somebody to operate it throughout the winter for the community's sake. So I don't know, it's just something that we can have to think about maybe going forward.
Yeah, and we can definitely put that in our notes for when we're drafting a new contract with a new vendor in the future, that it is a commitment for the entire time. At this venture, we do have the allowability of 60 days notice, so they could actually close before, right at the beginning of March, actually, I guess, or even the beginning of February if we went back to the December 6th date of notice. So this, I think, in fairness to the vendor, first-time vendor, and putting it out there, is that we do try and work with them, and we try and get all our events covered that are coming up to ensure that they're covering them. And I'm confident Eileen can take care of that in the reduction of hours. But I do agree with you, Councillor Kistemaker, that in the future we have to ensure that they know that they're committing to that full time and the full hours. So, and I do want to echo Councillor Drago-Stefanik's remarks that I am sad to see this venture not work for them. And we know that it's possible to have a canteen that's functioning and working on a different scale. So I don't know what the business model was between the two different businesses, but it's unfortunate. So if there's no further comments, I'll put that motion to a vote that's on the floor. And this will come back in a bylaw at our next meeting. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 9.2 is the request for donations from the Holy Name of Jesus School en français. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please, and we can have the motion on the floor. Moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas council received correspondence from Simon Fortin-Eucretz, dated December 6, 2023, requesting an in-kind donation of ice time for the École Saint-Nom de Jésus school skating program. And whereas this program aims to promote physical activity and foster social interactions, teamwork, and a sense of community among students and parents, and whereas Mr. Fortin-Eucretz is requesting 3 hours of ice time to be spread out in intervals of 1 hour per month in January, February, and March of 2024. And whereas per the comprehensive user fees and service charges, ice rentals is charged at an hourly price of $116.68, including HST. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize an in-kind donation of 3 hours of ice time at the total cost of $350.04, including HST, for the École Saint-Nom de Jésus school skating program. And I open up the floor for discussion on this motion. Yes, go ahead, Eileen.
Sorry, there's just one last sentence there to read for the motion.
Oh, sorry. Oh, and be it further resolved that these funds will be expensed from the Community Wellbeing Reserve Fund. Thank you for that, Eileen. Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, go ahead.
I just was wondering, does the public school pay for skating?
No, so I was going to add that the other schools do not pay for, I believe, the English school, the public school runs it as well, and they, they do pay.
Okay.
And I do have a recommendation from the interim treasurer as well. And he had recommended that since this hasn't been done in the past, council should consider that if approved, council would be setting a precedent for other schools or community groups such as youth groups, scouts, etc. And he doesn't recommend approving this request. And if it is approved by council, and since it is an unbudgeted item, it could be handled similarly to the curling club suggested donation. And any 2024 portion should be included in that budget when approved.
Thank you, Eileen. Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, go ahead.
So just saying that I don't agree that we should do this. we would be starting a precedent for something else that we haven't done. So if the other schools are able to pay for their students, why would we go forward with this? We're putting us in another situation.
Councillor Peter, go ahead. Thank you, Belinda.
I agree with what Eileen said, as well as Councillor Kissenmaker. And I also want to bring up, if going, not necessarily this time, but in the future, the funds being expensed from the well-being fund, being that the arena's already open and we're already paying the labor for everything, do we have to, going forward in the future, do we have to expense something like this? Like, this should almost be a donation, and it should be I don't see it as, it shouldn't be a cost to the community, being that the arena, the ice is already in place, we're already paying the wages. I just don't want to see money being taken out of the well-being fund when we don't have to, when it's just basically all you're doing is playing a shell game.
Removing money
From something that you don't have to. So if in something in kind going forward, whether it's this or something else, I don't think we should be looking at taking money out for budgeting purposes when it doesn't actually cost. There's no capital cost to the community to donate or let the certain groups access the arena, especially when we're already paying for the staff, we're paying for, everything's already paid. So basically all we're doing is taking the money out of the well-being fund and putting it in something else. It's just, it'll be taken away from something that we really need that for.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kissenmaker. I think we can ensure that we budget for our arena and have those extra items included in there as well. I'm not sure if the way we've budgeted for our arena, I'd have to defer to either Eileen or the treasurer, that we've calculated the hours of being open by the schedules that were proposed. I'm not exactly sure, so this would be extra hours on top of that, so I'm not sure if we've actually budgeted. But then again, you can always take away certain skating hours that we've already put in place to take care of that. So I do see what you're saying, Peter, that we can move money around within our existing budget and not take it out of a reserve fund.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Drago-Stefanic, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilor Kissenmaker, Peter. Number one, if the facility is open, the schedule's already open, historically speaking, we allow the schools to use it. If they requested it, for example, they have special skates on a Saturday morning where we're not open historically, we charge them. But if say it's 1 to 2 p.m. on a Friday, we are open, staff is there, it just makes sense. It's public facility and it's health and wellness, and I think they should be allowed to use it. If they're above and beyond that the facility is not offering, then I would be charging.
Okay, I just want to refer to Eileen, our CAO right now, just to get clarification that the other two school boards currently using the ice surface do pay for rental fees when they're using it?
Yes, they do.
Yes, okay. My comments on this is I don't want to set precedents. I do not want to pass this resolution saying that we will donate ice time. I do feel, though, that we should bring a second resolution to council, motion to floor in support of the École named Jésus, in support of them going after their own budgeting. That this, the way I look at this is downloading to the municipality. We pay through our tax base already to the schools. We pay through our income tax. There's quite a few funds. And when we look at chopping up our land tax, our tax base even further to support provincial and in this case, provincial areas, I don't agree with that. And it has nothing to do, like, I don't want the kids not to be able to skate, but we have to ensure that the right people are paying for this. And I do agree that it would set a precedence passing something like this into the future. So my recommendation is that we do vote on this. I will be voting against it, but I would like to bring a motion in support of the school to for skating, that our facility is available for use, and noting that the other two school boards within our community pay for skating, and we would it would be reasonable to think that the third school board should pay. And I only say that so that the principal of this school would have the document to support getting skating for his students. Does that sound like a plan, council?
I like that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay,
In favor.
in favor of that? Okay, so I'm going to put this motion up for a vote, and the next motion that we just talked about, that'll come to our next meeting. So I put this one up to a vote. Those in favor of defeating the motion, and that is defeated. And just for, I'm going to refer to Eileen, just for protocol's sake, Eileen, for this, due to the motion being on the floor and it has resulted out of a council discussion of a further motion of to support the school, do we need a notice of motion for that, or can we continue on and it'll be put on as a follow-up to this item?
We can just continue. It doesn't need the notice of motion, and we'll just place it onto the next council meeting. We can just
Okay.
continue.
Thank you, Eileen. Okay, item 9.3 is a support resolution. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Whereas under the Funeral, Burial, and Cremation Services Act 2002, FBCSA, when a cemetery is declared abandoned by a judge of the Superior Court Justice, the local municipality within whose geographic boundaries the land of the cemetery is located becomes the owner of the cemetery with all of the rights and obligation in respect of the cemetery and the assets, trust funds, and trust accounts related to it that the previous owner or operator possessed. And whereas over the last decade, there have been an increase in the number of churches and local cemetery boards initiating processes to transfer ownership or abandon their owned and operated cemeteries to the local municipality due to such issues as high maintenance costs, inaccuracy of records, lack of financial and human resources to effectively operate and maintain the cemetery, increased regulatory processes regarding training, selling of interment rights, financial operation of the care and maintenance fund, etc. And whereas municipalities experience the same issues and pressures that churches and local boards experience with the operation and maintenance of cemeteries within its jurisdiction, and additional fund transfers of cemetery lands only compound the burden on municipal taxpayers. And whereas cemeteries are important infrastructure, where the reasonable costs for interment rights, burials, monument foundations, cornerstones, and administration charges do not sufficiently support their general operation, and whereas the interest earned from the care and maintenance funds of the cemetery do not provide adequate funding to maintain the cemetery with the rising costs of lawn and turf maintenance contracts and monument restoration. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby support the Township of Clearview's request that the province, through the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery, MPBSD, and the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, BAO, consider the following to assist municipalities in this growing concern of cemetery transfers. Amend the Funeral, Burial, and Cremation Services Act 2002, FBCSA, to have the province, through the BAO, identified as the default owner and operator of the cemetery when it is abandoned. Provide annual funding based on the number of cemeteries a municipal owns and operates to municipalities to assist with the maintenance of inactive and active cemeteries. Provide free training opportunities for municipalities regarding cemetery administration, and investigate and support the design of universal cemetery software for use by municipal cemetery operators that can be offered at an affordable cost. Be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Todd McCarthy, Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery, John Casamatis, Interim CEO, Registrar of the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, BAO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, FNOM, and the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, NOMA, with a copy to the Township of Clearview. Any discussion on that motion? I am in full support of it. I do think there should be training. I was on the cemetery board and the legislation regarding cemeteries is quite extensive. And I know just from our small municipality, we have, it takes quite a bit of administration to ensure it's done correctly. So I put this support motion to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, item 9.4, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Eileen, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, please. So MECP is seeking input from the municipalities. It is, there's quite a few documents and regulations that you need to read to kind of understand what they're looking for. But in the document that's attached to the agenda, if you clicked on the Environmental Registry of Ontario link in there, it does say the proposed changes that they're going to try to move forward with. And I also reached out to Aqua just to get their input on this because it is quite complex to understand. And Aqua had mentioned that their PCT, so their process compliance technician, has no feedback and is satisfied with the current protocol with the practices for the collection and handling of drinking water samples. So if council does have any input or feedback that they would like to provide, the input is needed by January 26th. So if they could, I guess if they are going to provide anything, it would be needed probably within the next week, I would say by January 17th if possible, and they can email it to me.
Okay, I open up the floor right now. Currently, is there a submission that we need to do on behalf of the township in this? Do we want to support Aqua's that they are currently fine with the current regulation?
They're the ones that know.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay, I would suggest then that we just give direction right now that Eileen can submit that we're in agreement with Aqua's stance on this regulation. And they're our service provider and thank you, Eileen, for reaching out to them. They're the experts in this.
Yeah.
And if there's any further items that come up from council before the 17th, you can submit those through email to Eileen. So if we can get a mover and a seconder to pass the motion, moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that council does hereby proceed as discussed. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, item 10 is correspondence information only. I believe, Eileen, you'd like to speak to a few items within this?
Yes. So I just wanted to draw a few items to council's attention. 10.2, Mayor Fort had noticed that there was an error in the dates in the trust funds document. So BDO has now amended that and just provided the updated copy. So that's on there for council's information. And then I wanted to bring to attention 10.3, is the attachment that's on the agenda is just a follow-up to the December 6th meeting where Mayor Ford had asked what were the past regulations before the new HAA regulations came into effect. And Aqua had advised that there were no HAA regulations before 2020. THMs were regulated and monitored before 2020 and were a problem about 10 years ago up until 2014 to 2015 or so. And if council requires any further data, they can look into it and bring that to council's information or bring it to council's information at a later date.
Okay, thank
And
you for that.
Yeah, and those were the only items.
Okay, is there any other items that council would like to highlight out of information only? Councillor Drago Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at the water agency report, under quarter report, September 23rd, Q3, under item of the water flow. On August, it was 16,251 meters cubed, and then jumped to 19,930 cubed. That's a massive jump in per month, and also per day for 524 to 664. I'd just like to know why was that, if you could reach out to them. I'd like to know that. That's a massive jump.
I'm just wondering, was that the time period where we had the break on Murphy Lane? And we had the difficulties getting the locates were delayed and processed? I'm not sure if that's in that time period.
I'm not sure either. And sorry,
Okay.
Councillor Stefanik, can you just confirm, sorry, can you clarify or confirm which one you were looking at
Okay,
again?
I'm looking at the report July to September 23rd, Q3, then you go down, and says treated water flow, July, August, September.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
2 charts there.
Yeah, and my secondary follow-up is, the interesting part, the final effluent, it went down from 19,000 to 18,000. I don't understand that. Thank you.
Okay, Eileen, do you have enough information to bring that back to Aqua and get the information for us?
I'll obtain clarification from Aqua regarding those 2 charts.
Okay, thank you. Any other items out of information only from council? Okay, if there's being none, if I can get a mover and a seconder to acknowledge receipt. Moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation, the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the correspondence information only package attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 11 is committee and board updates. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the board and committee meeting minutes attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. And we do have 4 sets of meeting minutes here. And is there any discussion on any of those minutes? Okay, there being none, I put a vote to acknowledge receipt of those minutes to vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. And moving on, we have the NOMA board report. If I can get a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that the council does hereby acknowledge receipt of the NOMA board meeting summary report for November 22nd, 2023, as prepared by Andreas Strawson, Executive Director of the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, NOMA. Any discussion on that summary board report? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I put this to a vote. Those in favor, acknowledging. And that is carried. Okay, now we're at the point where it's 11.3 is council committee updates. And we can do a roundtable of this. I'm going to start the night off with Eileen. We have an edition of Winterfest we want to discuss.
Yes, so I just wanted to advise council that Winterfest for this year, if agreeable to council, would be February 16th to the 19th. So that's the Friday to the Monday. And February 17th, which is the Saturday, should council still want to move forward with it, would be the council breakfast. And I believe Mayor Ford has some additional information for that as well.
What dates? I'm sorry, say those dates again?
It's February 16th to the
Yeah.
19th, so the Friday to the Monday this year, which falls on
Okay.
the Family Day weekend.
And the breakfast would be on this 18th?
The 17th,
The
the
17th,
Saturday.
okay.
It's normally on Saturday morning.
Okay.
Okay, so in addition to this, I have no problem with those dates. I just want to inform council that I will be away on February 17th. I'll be away from the 15th right through until the 23rd. So I know in the past I've headed this up, but I was wondering if one other member of council would like to take the lead on the breakfast.
You're missing
Counselor.
a good breakfast.
It's not a mayor's breakfast, it's a council's breakfast. Councillor Ted Shedevan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm fine, Madam Mayor. If, for assistance, I can do that.
Okay, great. In the past, was a grocery list already maintained, and Eileen will have it delivered. Well, you can coordinate with Eileen. I think there needs some help for unloading the water and that sort of thing, and we don't want to put that off on people that do not have the capabilities to do it. So, is there any more information you need for that, Eileen?
No.
Go ahead, Councillor Peter Kistemaker.
I had a few more pounds of bacon because we ran out when we were serving.
And a
Yeah,
few
too
more.
many.
Okay.
Problems.
And Deputy Mayor Peter Kistemaker, you'll be available to give a few words at that breakfast?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Drago-Stefanik?
Go ahead.
No, it's Linda.
Councillor,
Basically,
go ahead.
I just wanted to suggest that we buy the minor hockey syrup to put on the tables.
That's a
Good
good
idea.
idea. Very good idea.
Okay. So Eileen, can someone at the staff reach out to minor hockey? I know they're getting low on those bottles, and we'll replace all of the whatever we usually buy with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Drago-Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, to Mayor, to Councillor Ted, I'll be there to help you. Just send me an email out what time you want me to be there on Saturday to assist you. I shall be there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, if there's no further discussion on Winterfest, then we'll carry on for roundtable. Councillor Drago-Stefanik.
Okay. Real quick. I have a PHU Finance Committee virtual meeting, January 15th, Monday. It's gonna be a marathon meeting. We're setting 4 hours for it, so it should be pretty exciting for 2024 budgeting. With all the changes from province downloading, it's gonna be a difficult meeting. Then we have a PH regular board meeting on January 25th in person, library board February 29th. And also of importance, I brought this up second last meeting, Dr. Catton is having a strengthening public health in Northeastern Ontario, voluntary merger between Porcupine and Temiskaming. She has allowed 3 dates, 3 different times. So therefore, if people choose different times, we won't run into a quorum problem with council. I sent the stuff into the CAO and she could forward. There's dates are January 11th, tomorrow, 4 to 5. There is a link right on there. January 12th, 12 to 1 p.m. and January 16th, 4 to 5 p.m. And her counterpart, Temiskaming, will cover all the aspects that were done up to date and where we're headed. So gives you full scope of what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stefanik. I did see that email and I will be attending the second date. I can't attend tomorrow as I'm traveling. Any further comments, Councillor Stefanik?
That is all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peter Kistemaker?
I got nothing out of this time.
Thank you. Councillor Ted Shedevan?
I have nothing from the committee to update. I did send an email to yourself, Mayor, as well as councillors and Eileen regarding just a recap of the conference I was at in October. I could touch on the highlights of that now, or if you're satisfied to read the note and address anything that you would want further information on later.
Okay, we could have the highlights right now.
Okay, so it was the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario. So a lot of it was geared towards tourism directly, but there were several things that really stuck out that are things that were probably community oriented, and that was the rebounding from COVID-19 of the numbers, where COVID-19 was their best tourism year, and after that they had 2 years of just horrendous numbers. And then they said in 2023 they were actually returned to 76% of the 2019 numbers, which was fairly high. Now, they said that could be skewed because small operators may not have returned the information and completed the survey, so that might have been based on larger conglomerates that did and would have replied, as well as the one that was really in our area would be what we call, or they called pre-approved building plans, where they had taken plans, and Collingwood was had taken and put 3 plans forward that they had pre-approved in the building department and had their building official approve, have them on hand ready, so that if someone was ready to build a rental unit, or there were 3 different styles they did, they were there, so it would facilitate the process, would eliminate the waiting time. There'd be nothing sending it away to Cavan Sabarin. It would already be done. It would just be a rubber stamp process to be able to do that. It also would allow for more consistent building, and the opportunity for us, I thought it was our conversation with Seed Homes could be probably initiated again to be able to see where that stands. Next was probably the unregulated units, was a concern province-wide between Airbnbs that there's no control or registration with, people who rent out rooms in their houses, and there's not both from the fire department standpoint, there was no safety, there was no evacuation plans, they were just there. So that was something that was a concern as a safety, as well as it led them to the talking about a municipal accommodation tax, where those small businesses would have to be registered to be able to have some uniformity and some governance to make sure that they were being run safely and that there were rules and things being adhered to. Next was probably the staffing shortages, which we know both locally and provincially that's been a huge issue. And they were saying that the 60% of our employees are hourly paid employees. And what happens is that they tend to stay from 4 to 6 months. And a lot of that, they said, is just because of 2 things: compensation, so the wages, as well as not feeling appreciated. Where management doesn't seem to be on skew to be able to put a value on that entry-level position. And that was one of the things that they stressed, was that it takes 5 times as much money to bring a new customer in as it does to retain a customer. And with us, it's the same with staffing. It takes 5 times at least as much to keep somebody or to train somebody over again as it would in our municipal context to have that person be retained, challenged, and grow with. That would be the highlights, I would think. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Just to note on that, we had discussions at the provincial level on the housing task force about possibly, these were bigger units, this was more for apartment size units, that there would be pre-approved plans that could be used across the province possibly that fit within building code regulation of each municipality. And then it takes the cost away. Basically, it becomes like a catalog shopping, that there's so many pre-approved plans, and then people can choose the home that fits the code. Or in this case, this was for bigger builds for apartment buildings, but there's definitely a need to streamline that process, because for one person to build a home, the loopholes you have to jump through to get that home built and lived in can be overwhelming for someone who doesn't necessarily ever deal in that, right? They want a home. So thank you for that, Councillor Sheneman. Councillor Belinda Kistemaker.
I don't have anything at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple updates. We did have the mayor's meeting this morning from 10 till 12, and we had a few different discussion items. The one, we did have Tracy McPhee from Ontario Northland present to our meeting. And I still have to applaud Ontario Northland for the relationship building that they continue to do for small communities. And we talked about advocacy. We did pass a motion at the mayor's group that we would do a joint effort at the Good Roads to advocate to ensure that we get these smaller suppliers to meet up with their bigger bus route. And Tracy gave us examples of Elliott Lake, what's happening with the parcel service out of Manitouwadge. I think this would be a huge benefit to Hornepayne, because this would connect us to not only the White River route, but also they're looking at expanding the Hearst to Thunder Bay route. They're looking at expanding the bus line through that area. And I did ask today at the meeting that on the map, they include Hornepayne Junction at Highway 11, that it just doesn't, that our name is on the map, and possibly even at White River, that it also includes Hornepayne Junction as well. And there is funds available at the government level, and Ontario Northland is willing to work with a service provider for seamless ticketing. So if you were to buy a ticket, say from Hornepayne to Thunder Bay, that ticket, the person would pay one ticket, and then that provider that would go from Hornepayne to White River, they would get their payment through Ontario Northland. So there is a business venture here that people could look into, and we could support it at the municipal level by getting the initial funding. But it was an interesting discussion this morning. I look forward to doing the joint delegation with all of our communities, and we're not the only one in this situation. Chapleau is in this situation, Duberville, and currently Manitouwadge has the ticketing system, but they have a link up on Highway 17. They don't have a provider that comes right into their community. And they are partnering with taxi services as well. So I'm looking forward to that delegation. And we did have a few other discussion items. We talked about recycling and about doing a joint venture together as our 6 communities to look at what it would cost if we went towards recycling as a group, trying to get some data and metrics together so that we can possibly maybe grab some of the what is the new system that's coming into play is that the distributor has to pay for the garbage they create. But because we don't have the numbers in Northern Ontario, we're not benefiting from that program at all. So we're looking at possibly trying to find funding first. And the CDC out of Duberville is willing to look for the funding to have a feasibility study done. And it's more on the economics of it for the viability for our 6 communities to get into recycling. And I've stated this before, I'm not sure if I've stated at council, but I know that within our community, it does hinder us attracting newcomers to our community, especially newcomers that have always recycled. It's almost foreign for someone to put all their garbage into one like after they've been trained from a young age. It's like telling for myself, it's like littering. I don't litter. And if someone told me tomorrow, oh yeah, you can litter now, like it would be hard to do that. So, and I do see it as a hindrance for attracting new people to Northern Ontario that we don't recycle. And of course, it's just environmentally, right? Like, let's get on board. How do we get this done? So you'll hear more about that in the future. And I think that is a way to go. I know in the past when we looked at it, the price tag was about $150,000 for our community. That was pre-pandemic, and Manitouwadge confirmed today that they're well over $150,000 for their recycling program that they do with GFI. And they're the only community within the 6 communities that fully recycle. So One other topic that I'll be looking into over the next couple of weeks is the Terrace Bay Mill closure announcement. I've already discussed this with a few people already. I will be connecting with the mill upon my return to Hornepayne tomorrow, and I've discussed with Chapleau, Judith, the CAO to Chapleau. They've requested a meeting actually with the Minister of Forestry. She mentioned it today at the mayor's meeting. Just to what is going to happen with the chips. There was some discussion about that already, that the closest place for distribution right now is Dryden. And so I will be looking into that further. If any council member wants to reach out to me with information on that regard, you're welcome to do that. And we do have several avenues in the next couple of weeks. There is Roma happening, although I'm not attending or any member of our council. We do have people that are at Roma. We could make a few calls. If there's a fact sheet that I could get my hands on, I would definitely distribute that out. I will be in Toronto the week of February 19th for Ontario Good Roads, and we could schedule meetings then as well to ensure that we're supporting Hornepayne Power and Hornepayne Lumber. And the only other item that I'd like to say is I believe we're still on tomorrow night for our annual Christmas party that's now turned into a New Year's party. Eileen,
Yeah, we're still on.
Okay, or not tomorrow night, Friday night. But I hope to see you all there, and I hope to be there. So that's my only update right now. Okay, if there's no questions on that, we'll move on. Okay, item 12 is bylaws, and we have our procedure bylaw on the floor. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2047, being a bylaw to govern the calling, place, and proceedings of meetings of council and the conduct of members, staff, and attendees at council meetings, be hereby read a first and second time, be considered, read a third time, and finally passed. And I believe, Eileen, you'd like to speak to this, or a staff speak to this?
Yeah, I'll get the deputy clerk to speak to this.
So we made a couple of relatively minor changes in my opinion, and I will go through them. And I don't know how to do this in a way that is not awkward, so we're just gonna roll it. So under regular meetings of council, 6.2.1, which is on page 15, we changed it. It was originally Tuesdays because when I had written this, we were doing council meetings on Tuesdays. So it had said regular meetings of council shall be held on the first and third Tuesday of every month. I changed it to Wednesday because we're back to Wednesdays. And then to go with that, on page 21 under notice of meetings general provisions, section 8.1.3 and section 8.1.4 was changed from Thursday to Friday because that's when the agenda now has to go out. It's had to be before. On page 27 under 12.4.2, which is deputations, we've included along with speaking notes. So deputations appearing before council or committee must submit a copy of their presentation along with speaking notes to the secretary, just so that council has all of the information and staff have all the information prepared if there's anything that there will be questions about. On page 28, also under deputations, under 12.4.7, we've changed it from 6 months to 12 months. So deputations who have previously appeared before council or committee are prohibited from speaking on the same subject matter for a period of no less than 12 months, unless they are providing new information only in their subsequent appearances. And then on page 29, also under deputations 12.4.13, deputations are not permitted to address council or committee on a policy matter upon which council or committee has already made a decision within the previous 12 months, unless council or committee has decided to reconsider the matter. This is just to help manage the amount of times we'll have like repeat questions or,
Items.
yeah, things that have been just decided by council brought back. And then the next one is on page 30. And that is under correspondence, 12.8.3 is fully added, like it's anyone. Requests regarding matters that have been addressed by council or committee within the previous 12 months will not be permitted or circulated to council. Council and or the clerk may waive this requirement when in their opinion the public interest would be best served by doing so. And then the next one is on page 39, and it will actually be changed a little bit because Mayor Fort had pointed out the wording was a little bit off. So originally right now it says bylaws and policies shall be reviewed annually unless a review is required due to special circumstances. However, it was pointed out not every bylaw or policy is on an annual review. So it really depends on legislation or what the review cycle is for that one. So the proposed change is bylaws and policies shall be reviewed and updated as required by legislation or as required due to special circumstances. Just so that we're not once again bringing back the same thing like 4 times a year if we don't have to. And then on all of the agencies, A, B, and C, I removed the logo just because we're undergoing the rebranding. So it's one less thing for us to have to rush and change. And in Appendix C, which is last page 43, we've also included and speaking notes once again. So we must provide a copy of your presentation, handouts, and speaking notes in advance. Oh, you're muted, Mayor Fort.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Jen. Any council or any questions from council on the procedure bylaw? Is there consensus on the one change of item, I believe it was 15, about the annual review of bylaws and procedures, the difference of wording there?
Good.
Okay, so we put that to a vote with that one item of wording. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 12.2 is the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. If I get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2048, being a bylaw to establish a community safety and well-being plan for the corporation of the Township of Hornepayne, hereby read a first and second time, be considered read a third time, and finally passed. Any further discussion on the well-being plan? There being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for all your hard work on that, staff and the members of the committee. I know it was, I think 3 or 4 years in the making. And I just have one question, Eileen. That whole document's accessible? It'll be put on our website?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay, moving on. We are moving into a closed session now. And I would, we'll pass to go into closed, and once we're in closed though council, we'll have a 10-minute break and actually start the closed at 7:10, just to allow for people if they're having difficulties getting on. And if I can get a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting at 6:59 PM be closed to the public in order to discuss a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. And a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality or local board and has monetary value or potential monetary value pursuant to section 239(2)(ij) of the Municipal Act 2001. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we'll see you at the closed session, and I'll be arriving at 7:10.
We need to promote again.
Okay, we're good.
Are we all ready and set to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder to return to open, moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby return to open council at 7:56 p.m. Those in favor? And that is carried. So from our closed session, we do have a few housekeeping items first that we need to resolve. And we're moving back to the motion that was floored and passed of item 14.1, moving into the closed session. And I refer to the deputy clerk of the addition that will be made to this motion.
So there will be an addition of section K from the municipal act, so it will be a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations. As per section K of the municipal act.
Okay, thank you for that. And I look to council now to acknowledge that change in a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. And we do have, from our closed session, we do have two motions coming from the closed. First one being from, sorry, let me get to my proper area. Okay, the first motion comes from our 7.1 of our closed session agenda. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please, for that motion. Can you please state your name? I'm not seeing your cameras right now. Moved by Councillor
Peter Kistemaker?
Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor
Belinda Kistemaker?
Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas council adopted their 2023-2027 strategic plan in May of 2023, which highlighted the need for certain high priority policy documents, and whereas staff has obtained a cost estimates quote of $28,400 excluding HST from Municipal Government Wayfinders, MGW, for the preparation of the following policy documents: minimum maintenance standards, municipal vehicles and equipment maintenance and disposal policy, municipal buildings and properties maintenance and disposal policy, care and use of municipal roads, and property standards. Therefore, be it resolved that after consideration and discussion, the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize the CAO clerk to commission Municipal Government Wayfinders Limited to draft the following 5 policy documents: minimum maintenance standards, municipal vehicles and equipment maintenance and disposal policy, municipal buildings and properties maintenance and disposal policy, care and use of municipal roads, and property standards at a cost of $28,400 excluding HST to be expensed from the Planning and Development Reserve. And let me get to my camera. And I put that to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
That is carried. And our second motion on the floor is from the request for quotations for the engineering services. And if I can get you to state your name when I ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor
Stefanik?
Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor
Belinda
Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas the Township of Hornepayne issued requests for quotations RFP number 2023-1130 Engineer Services Ballfield on November 30th, 2023. And whereas the Township of Hornepayne received 1 proposal submission from C. Villeneuve Construction Company Limited with 2 options. Option 1 for a smaller softball size field at $385,375 plus $50,098.75 HST, or option 2 for a larger baseball sized field at $580,725 plus $75,494.25 HST. And whereas members of the senior management team reviewed the above proposal and recommend entering negotiations with the bidder pursuant to the township's procurement bylaw, as both options submitted exceed the project budget. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation, the Township of Hornepayne, does hereby direct the CAO clerk to negotiate the bid received from C. Villeneuve Construction Company Limited for engineering services for the baseball field as per council discussion. And I put that to a vote. Those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
And that is carried. And there are no further items coming out of our closed session to date. So now we move on to confirmatory and adjournment. And again, if I can get you to state your name, council, please. Moved by councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by councillor
Ted Sheneman.
Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2049, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at their regular meeting held on Wednesday, January 10th, 2024, be hereby read a first and second time and be considered read a third time and finally passed. Those in favor?
all right.
Aye.
Aye.
And that is carried. And our adjournment, moved by councillor
Stefanik?
Grego Stefanik, second by councillor
Belinda Kistemaker.
Belinda Kistemaker. Be resolved that council does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 at 8:02 p.m. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that is carried. Thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year. And for those that are,
Madam Mayor.
yes, bye, everyone.
Aye.
Bye.